There are places in the world that are not content with simply being beautiful. They challenge, surprise, and tell stories that seem to come from another planet. Today, we will embark on an intense journey through 10 incredible destinations in Africa, a continent of extremes, mysteries, and a beauty so unique it seems to defy imagination itself. From the hypnotic red of Lake Natron to the sacred heights of Kilimanjaro. From the mystical waters of the Okavango Delta to the sacred stones of Lalibela. Get ready to discover places that go far beyond tourism. Places that touch the spirit, awaken your gaze, and stir the heart. Welcome to your next dream destination. If you haven't registered yet, we invite you to join our community, leave a like, and activate the notification bell, because the best of Africa is about to be revealed. Number 1. Mount Kilimanjaro, the White Crown of Africa. Imagine a silent colossus rooted in the beating heart of the African continent, rising solemnly amidst the golden plains of Tanzania. Mount Kilimanjaro is not just a mountain, it's a presence. A solitary sanctuary of ice, surrounded by scorching savannas, as if it were a geological mirage carved by ancient gods. At 5,895 meters above sea level, it is the highest point in Africa, and also the most symbolic. But what is truly impressive about Kilimanjaro is not just its height, it's the almost poetic contrast between its eternally snow-capped summit and the scorching heat that surrounds it. A mountain that defies the laws of nature, as if it had been placed there on purpose to remind the world of the raw yet serene power of the African continent. Surrounding it, ancient tribes like the Chaga and the Maasai weave legends about its origins. It is said that ancestral spirits dwell on its slopes, and that climbing Kilimanjaro is, in a way, to commune with something greater, something divine. The path to the summit does not require climbing equipment, but it imposes another kind of test, that of mental endurance. Days are spent climbing through humid tropical forests, cold alpine zones and desert-like lunar landscapes, until finally reaching the roof of Africa, where oxygen is scarce and the silence is so heavy, it feels as if time has stopped. At dawn, from up there, what you see is not just a panorama, it is the sensation of standing at the threshold between sky and earth. A spectacle that cannot be captured in photographs or words, only in memories etched into the soul. Kilimanjaro is more than a tourist destination. It is a rite of passage, a monument to the resilience, beauty, and spirituality of Africa. Number 2. The Sahara Desert, the ocean of sand that swallows the horizon. It is not just a desert. The Sahara is a golden enigma that undulates for millions of years under the unblinking gaze of the sun. It stretches out like a living endless tapestry, embroidered in shades of copper, gold, and burnt red, covering almost the entire northern part of the African continent. It is more than 9 million square kilometers of a world apart, so vast it could hold entire countries and still have room left for silence. The Sahara is not made of sand alone. It is made of time. Of eras buried beneath the dunes. Of vanished civilizations, forgotten roots, and secrets known only to the wind. A place where the present is barely a whisper, and the past echoes in ruins, petroglyphs, and solitary oases that defy the logic of their existence. There, time dissolves. The days burn with temperatures that verge on the unbearable. The nights freeze with a cold that is almost insulting. And between these extremes, landscapes emerge that seem drawn by cosmic artists, dunes that dance like frozen waves, black stone mountains rising like sentinels of a forgotten world, and skies so clear they reveal constellations with a clarity civilization lost long ago. The Sahara is a paradox in the form of a territory, empty yet full of presence. Inhospitable yet magnetic. Silent yet full of stories. Tuareg caravans still travel its routes like ancestors from times and memories past, guided by the stars and by instinct. And even where life seems impossible, there is resilience. Scorpions, desert foxes, nomads, and stubborn palm trees that refuse to give in to the absence of water. For those who dare to enter, the Sahara offers no comfort. It offers something rarer, perspective. It reduces you. It silences you. It forces you to listen to what is inside. And at the same time, it reveals the grandeur of a planet that still has much to teach about pure beauty, solitude, and strength. The Sahara cannot be visited. The Sahara faces itself. And whoever crosses it, even if only with their gaze, is never the same again. Number 3. Victoria Falls, the smoke that thunders. There are places in the world where nature whispers, invites, soothes. And there are places where it screams, roaring like liquid thunder, as if to remind humanity of its true scale. Victoria Falls belong to this second type. A natural monument so visceral that you feel it in your chest even before it appears before your eyes. Located on the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe, these falls are not just simple waterfalls. They are a boiling abyss, a living chasm through which the Zambezi River plunges with the force of a world in the making. With more than 1,700 meters in width and around 108 meters in height, they form the largest falling curtain of water on the planet. A spectacle of almost biblical scale. But it's not just the size that impresses, it's the presence. The waterfall doesn't just descend, it explodes, it echoes, and it rises in clouds of mist that soar to heights of over 400 meters, visible from kilometers away. That's why the locals gave it the name Mosi Oatunya, the smoke that thunders. A name that is not a metaphor, but a literal description. The mist vibrates in the air, the ground trembles beneath your feet, and the sound? The sound is like a continuous thunder that seems to come from the very center of the earth. There, the sky dissolves into vapor, and the sun dances in prisms on every suspended droplet, creating multiple rainbows that shift with the wind, as if they were portals to another dimension. The banks are covered with lush, pulsating vegetation, where baboons, exotic birds, and even elephants share the stage with this relentless phenomenon. Victoria Falls is not just a landscape, it is a complete sensory experience. The smell of the water, the touch of the mist on your skin, the unceasing roar, the wind that blows carrying centuries of stories. This is not a place you visit passively, you live it, you feel it, you revere it. There, standing before that liquid wall, humans become small once again. Humble. Invited simply to watch in silence as the earth shows what it is still capable of. Number 4. Namib-Naukluft National Park, where time turns into sand. In the southwest of Africa, there is a place where reality itself seems to melt under the heat of the sun. A place that does not follow the rules of geographic logic or the color palette. Namib-Naukluft National Park is more than just a nature reserve. It is a mirror of time, a laboratory of silence, a wild nature that seems to have been sculpted to defy human understanding. Located in Namibia, in one of the oldest and driest regions on the planet, this park is home to what many consider the oldest desert on Earth, the Namib Desert, which is around 55 million years old. And what it preserves is not just sand, but a geological memory, where every dune, every fissure, every shadow, tells a story that began long before the presence of humans. What captures the eye and the heart are the colossal dunes of Sossusvlei, some of which rise over 300 meters high. They are not mere mounds of sand, they are natural monuments in constant metamorphosis, sculpted by the wind with the patience of a divine sculptor. The color? A burnt red that intensifies at sunrise and sunset, transforming the horizon into a living painting, where the deep blue sky seems to defy the heat shimmering on the ground. But the true wonder lies at the heart of the park, in a place whose name comes from an expressionist painting, Devours. Imagine a dry riverbed, bone-white, covered with trees that have been dead for more than 600 years, charred by the sun, yet refusing to fall. There they remain like silent specters, sentinels of a time that has come to a standstill. The contrast between the chalk-white ground, the black tree trunks, and the red dunes in the background is so surreal that it seems more like a Salvador Dali hallucination than an actual place on the planet. And yet there is life. A life that is invisible but stubborn. Beetles that collect fog on their backs. Antelopes dancing on the edge of the impossible. Lizards that walk in zigzags to avoid burning their feet. Every creature in the Namib is an act of resistance in bodily form. The Namib-Naukluft National Park does not shout. It whispers in images. It does not impose itself. It waits. And when you find yourself before it, alone, surrounded by dunes that seem endless, under a cloudless sky, and with a silence that borders on the sacred, you understand. Here, the world does not move in haste. It moves through eternity. Number 5. Lake Natron, the red mirror of death. There are places on Earth that seem not to have been made for human eyes. Places that do not fit into the traditional map of beauty. They do not seduce, they intimidate. They do not welcome, but rather challenge. Lake Natron in northern Tanzania is one of those rare places. A red mirror, still, almost malevolent in its supernatural appearance that seems to stare back at anyone who looks into it. At first glance, Natron is a living painting in shades of blood and gray. Its waters, tinted a deep red or a burnt orange, stretch out beneath an overly bright sky, as if the earth there were wounded, exposed, silently boiling. But what gives this lake its color is not paint or magic, but brutal chemistry. The lake has extreme levels of sodium and alkalinity, created from the dissolution of volcanic ash, rich in sodium carbonate from the soil. The water can reach a pH of 10.5, close to that of pure ammonia. This composition transforms Natron into an almost alien landscape, where few living creatures dare to enter, and those that do often do not come out. The water calcifies whatever it touches. Birds, bats, small mammals. Any animal that dares to land or fall into its boiling corrosive waters ends up petrified, literally mummified in salt, transformed into a statue. That is why Natron is often called the lake that turns life into sculpture. And yet, paradoxically, it is also the cradle of life. This is the place where one of the largest populations of lesser flamingos on the planet chooses to breed. These delicate birds, with their long legs and pink plumage, walk lightly across this natural minefield as if they were dancing among ghosts. They not only survive, they thrive. The lake is a safe sanctuary from predators, thanks to its lethal hostility. Where everyone else sees death, flamingos see refuge. Lake Natron is not just a geographical location. It is a statement of nature in its rawest form. A reminder that beauty is not always comfortable. That awe can be accompanied by fear. That some places exist not to be touched, but to be contemplated from a distance, with reverence. Standing before Natron is like gazing upon the planet itself in its primordial state, raw, toxic, magnificent. A mineral oracle, where life and death dance together in a balance as fragile as it is fascinating. Number 6. Seychelles Islands, paradise forgotten by time. If there were a painting of utopia, a portrait of perfection in the form of a landscape, it would most likely resemble the Seychelles. Scattered like jewels in the hypnotic blue of the Indian Ocean, off the east coast of Africa, these islands do not seem to have been shaped by the same logic as the rest of the planet. They are, in essence, fragments of dreams floating on the water. Composed of 115 islands, each with its own rhythm and personality, Seychelles is a tapestry of untouched nature, where everything seems to have been designed with the utmost aesthetic care. White sands as fine as sugar that squeak beneath your feet like silk in motion. Granite rocks sculpted by wind and time into shapes bordering on the sculptural, as if sleeping giants had left their tools behind. And waters that not only reflect the sky but amplify it, in shades of blue so deep they make reality seem digital. But what truly makes Seychelles unique is not just its static beauty. It is the feeling of divine isolation. There is something there that slows your pulse and dissolves anxiety. Maybe it's the salty wind blowing through the coconut palms. Maybe it's the rhythmic song of the sea. Maybe it's the fact that on certain beaches you can walk for hours without seeing anyone except giant tortoises or rare birds. The main islands, Mahé, Praslin and Ladigue, offer an almost mystical combination of untouched nature and subtle traces of human presence. At Ancestral d'Argent, for example, The beach looks more like an illustration from an old tale. Palm trees bowed as if in reverence, stones polished by time, and a sea that doesn't stir, but rather caresses. But Seychelles also keeps secrets. In its preserved forests live species that exist nowhere else on the planet. In the Vallée de Mai, for example, you'll find the coco de mer, a type of palm whose fruits, suggestive and almost mythological, are the largest and heaviest in the world. Legends say that these trees were revered as sacred beings. And standing before them, it's not hard to understand why. In a world that rushes, that shouts, that demands, Seychelles whispers. It forces you to stop, breathe, and observe. It's not just a beautiful place, it's a fitting one, as if the planet, for a brief moment, had acted in unison and created something absolutely at peace with its own existence. Seychelles is not just a destination, it's a state of mind. Number 7. The Okavango Delta, the liquid miracle in the heart of the desert. Imagine a river that doesn't flow into the sea. A river that, instead of seeking the ocean, chooses to slowly disappear into the sand. A body of water that spreads out instead of flowing, that blooms in the middle of the desert, like a miracle that refuses to obey the laws of geography. This is the Okavango Delta, one of the most extraordinary river systems on the planet, and one of the few that, instead of dying, overflows with life. Located in Botswana, in the heart of the arid Kalahari Desert, the Okavango is by definition, a paradox. An inland delta, a liquid mosaic that covers about 15,000 square kilometers at its peak during the flood months. And most extraordinary of all, the water that feeds it comes from the mountains of Angola, more than 1,000 kilometers away, crossing entire territories before unfolding, like a flower in slow motion, over the thirsty plains of Botswana. But what transforms the Okavango from a geographic anomaly into a visceral spectacle of life is what happens when it arrives. The water lazily spreads out into hundreds of channels, lagoons, meanders, and islands. And as if by magic, the desert awakens. What was once dust becomes grass. What was silence becomes an orchestra. It's as if the planet itself, thirsty, were drinking and celebrating. The delta becomes one of the richest and most diverse ecosystems on Earth. Lions, elephants, leopards, buffalo, rhinoceroses, hippos, crocodiles, antelopes, giraffes, birds of every color and shape imaginable. All of them coexist there, like characters from an ancient epic, moving to the rhythm of the water's pulse. Every movement of the Okavango sets the rhythm of life. Each temporary island, each flooded path, every scattered drop could mean food, shelter, or a hunting ground. This is a nature that is not static, it dances. It breathes with the river. And for those who observe it, whether from a traditional canoe, the mokoro, or from a small plane flying over this living mosaic, the impression is that of witnessing something divine, something that has been happening for millennia, with the same silent precision as a sacred ritual. The Okavango Delta is not just a safari destination, it is a pulpit for wildlife. A reminder that even in the most inhospitable landscapes, nature finds a way not only to survive but to celebrate its own existence with exuberance. It is Africa in liquid form. A miracle that flows instead of shouting, but leaves a deep mark on all who behold it. Number 8. Lalibela, faith carved into the earth. There are places in the world that make us question what is real. Not because they seem unreal, but because they hold within them a presence, an ancestral vibration that passes through us before we even understand where we are. Lalibela, in the mountainous heart of Ethiopia, is one of those places. A fixed point in history where time seems to kneel, where faith was not built but carved out. High atop the Ethiopian plateau, among silent valleys and rust-colored rocks, lies one of humanity's most astonishing feats of spiritual engineering. 11 monolithic churches carved directly into the rocky ground from top to bottom. Yes, they were not erected. They were unearthed from living stone with millimeter precision centuries before the invention of any modern technology. And we're not talking about caves. We're talking about entire temples with naves, columns, corridors, crypts, windows, arches and altars. All of this was carved by hand in the 12th century under the orders of King Lalibela, who supposedly had divine visions instructing him to create a new Jerusalem in the heart of Africa so that pilgrims would not have to cross deserts and seas to reach the Holy Land. The most emblematic of them, and perhaps the most mysterious, is Bet Georgis, or the Church of St. George. Seen from above, it has the perfect shape of a Greek cross embedded in the ground, as if it had been marked by the finger of God. Around it, there are no walls, no roofs, no doors. Only the sky, the stone, and the silence. Walking through Lalibela is like walking through a book carved in basalt. The underground corridors connect the churches as if they were the veins of a sacred body. The walls are alive with the marks of time, of the faithful, of the monks who have prayed there since before the great voyages, the crusades, the maps as we know them. There, the past is not a memory, it is a physical presence. And there are no tourists who can break this spell. When the bells ring, sometimes made from old tires or pieces of salvaged metal, and the Ethiopian faithful dressed in white emerge from the shadows like devoted specters, you know, the sacred still lives here. Lalibela is not a museum, it is not an attraction, it is a heart that still beats, a raw manifestation of faith embedded in the very body of the earth. A reminder that sometimes the greatest miracles do not fall from the sky, they are born from stone. Number 9, Mount Kilimanjaro, the giant that kisses the sky. In the heart of Tanzania, a mountain rises like an eternal sentinel, a presence that defies the laws of time and weather. Mount Kilimanjaro is not only the highest mountain in Africa, with its impressive 5,895 meters above sea level, it is a natural monument that embodies the dream of conquest, the challenge of the impossible. Imagine an inactive volcano formed by three cones, Kibo, Mawenzi, and Shira, which, despite their apparent serenity, hold within them stories of fire and transformation. Kibo, the largest of them, is the peak that retains its crown of snow, an icy relic that stands in dramatic contrast to the scorching heat of the surrounding savannas. Climbing Kilimanjaro is like embarking on a journey that crosses several ecosystems in just a few days, from the humid heat of tropical rainforests, through moorlands covered with shrubs and strange flowers, to the biting cold of the alpine tundra, and finally, the absolute and rarefied silence of the summit. Each stage is a passage into a different world, a testament to the incredible diversity of African nature. But Kilimanjaro is more than just a physical ascent. It is an inner expedition. Many who attempt the climb experience a profound, almost spiritual sense of transformation, as if with every higher step they move further away from the limitations of everyday life and closer to the sacred. At the summit, the horizon opens up to an immensity that defies perception. The thin air carries with it an almost tangible silence, a space where the sky seems within reach, as if the planet itself were revealing its most intimate secret. There, the feeling is not one of conquest, but of reverence, a humble acknowledgement of the greatness of nature and of existence itself. Kilimanjaro is a beacon that calls to the bold, a giant that, even in its stillness, commands respect and fascination. It not only rises above the African land, but also touches the sky like a bridge between the earthly and the divine worlds. Number 10, Timbuktu, the oasis of knowledge in the desert. In the scorching heart of the Sahara Desert, where the sun seems to burn away memories, lies a city that for a long time was the epicenter of the known world for scholars, merchants, and medieval adventurers. Timbuktu is not just a city. It is a symbol of the resilience of knowledge amid aridity, an oasis where the light of wisdom has shone brightly, even in the most remote corners of the planet. Founded around the 12th century, Timbuktu quickly became a vital center of trans-Saharan trade, linking sub-Saharan Africa with the kingdoms of North Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. But its true splendor was not only in the caravans of gold, salt, and spices that passed through its gates. It was its role as an intellectual and cultural cradle that made it legendary. The city's universities and madrasas housed one of the largest collections of ancient manuscripts in the world, written in Arabic, covering subjects ranging from theology to astronomy, from mathematics to philosophy. These precious texts, many of which are still preserved in family libraries, are a testament to the intellectual wealth that pulsed in Timbuktu, a beacon of scholarship in an environment as hostile as it was inspiring. But Timbuktu was not a static city. It was a melting pot of cultures, a meeting place for travelers from all over the world, from Berber merchants to Andalusian scholars, each of them bringing pieces of distant worlds and contributing to a unique human tapestry. Today, despite the challenges and adversities it has faced, Timbuktu retains an almost mystical magnetism. Its clay buildings, including the iconic Djinguereber Mosque, seem to whisper ancient secrets, inviting those who seek to understand the depth of African history and the resilience of the human spirit. To be in Timbuktu is to feel the pulse of past eras and the promise of the future. It is to understand that knowledge, even under the most adverse conditions, can flourish and become a light for the world. And so we come to the end of this journey through 10 incredible places that Africa has to show us, places that go far beyond the landscapes, filled with stories, mysteries, and a beauty that touches the soul. If you enjoyed this journey and want to keep exploring the world with us, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell so you don't miss any updates, and leave a like to strengthen this community passionate about unique discoveries. Here, the adventure never stops, and your next destination might be closer than you think. See you next time.